All right, so for today's video, we're going to be checking out another video from the Breakfast Club. I'd say this one is just as hard as to watch as the previous one was, and the dislikes also reflect that. Now, I want to preface this by saying it's not so much what Vivek it has to say as the Republican candidate for the 2024 election. It's reflected by how the interviewer conducts herself and the whole cast and crew deal with it. You'll see, as I said, as I play the clip, and yeah.
Okay, great. Let's go. So you mentioned, the pride of being an American and how important it is to have pride in this country. I'm also a veteran, by the way,
Thank
for
you.
the United States Air.
Now, right off the bat, there, the way she says that and smiles, she's just kind of like a. It just gives off like this smirky cockiness, like, "Oh, I'm about to school you on some stuff," but it goes further into this.
Force. So when is it that you voted for the first time?
I voted in 2020.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 37 years old.
So for how many years you sat around and did not get involved at all in any civic engagement? Is that my understanding?
A long time is the answer. And actually, that's what I wrote this book about. I'm not holding myself out as some sort of model. I'm actually offering myself as a self-reflection of my journey as a citizen to whom this country has given much, right? As an adult, when you have kids, it changes your perspectives. I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go deeper into the self-reflection. So you've sat around for, and sir, I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything
and you don't even have to be.
Her having to say that, it already indicates to you that she's not going to be respectful in any which way.
And you don't even have to be. So take it off and let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made millions, according to your.
Hold on a second. Listen to what she just said there.
Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made millions, according to your resume, off of this country, and you have absolutely not been involved in civics. One, not voting, and two, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So have you ever?
Look, what does that have to do with being the president of the United States? Are you supposed to put that on your resume? Say you were going for a job and you were, should you have put that on? I was school president. Who cares? Nobody would care about that. But apparently to this woman, it's a very important thing to say. Now, the interesting part was, and Vivek will correct her, is that she said his parents were immigrants, which they were, but they brought him over. Now, you have to be an American citizen to become the president. You can't be a foreigner or an immigrant to run as a candidate for the presidency of the country. Now, she somehow corrects herself, but it's just interesting. Like, again, she's trying to get him on a gotcha, but is then getting herself all tripped up.
Taking any leadership at all on anything, or just
can I just correct a couple factual things that are kind of important? My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was born in this country, and I'm proud of that.
No, I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
You mentioned my
I'm
parents.
saying your parents were immigrants. My apologies.
That's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country. I thought I
my
would
apologies.
set that record straight.
I mean, they were immigrants, but let's not go down the water hole.
No, we're not going to water hole. I just want to correct a couple facts, and then the other.
Let's not go down the water hole, which she was the one who tried to get him on. Like, it's crazy.
So you were born here in Ohio.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So you've been here your entire life. So the question is, did you take any leadership role in middle school, high school, class president?
I did.
I know you played tennis. What is it?
Again, that's
student
not
council.
relevant.
But I think that this is Yes, I've held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
Exactly.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Okay,
well, it
well,
kind of does. Well, I'm giving the test. I'm the test
Okay,
administrator.
all right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
And I'll tell
of
you,
the land,
I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
The
well,
main leadership
right, but-
role I've played is and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say, to bring it to the country point. The other point, you use the word sitting around. You know, I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, one of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated, 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. Another one for prostate cancer. So I don't apologize for making contributions. But
right. Well, I don't want you to filibuster that
No worries.
because
Just
that's
not
not
sitting-
the question that I asked. And
But if you think about it, that is the question that she asked, because she asked if you did any service. To me, developing medications and drugs that save people's lives in today's society, that seems like a pretty good service. Yes, he may be benefiting from it financially, or, he might have some sort of financial gain from that. But at the same point, anything that anyone does is the same thing. She said she was in the Air Force. Did she volunteer to be in the Air Force without getting paid or any acknowledgement? Or like, no, she obviously did it for a reason. Yes, she served her country, but there were also she got things out of that as well. So he developed drugs to save lives, and from that got financial gain as well. Like, their services regardless.
I don't consider, as a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
did for
service,
profit. I'm not.
But she does think that school president, class president, all that kind of stuff in grade 6, 5, or 7, 8, 9, those are the services.
I'm not talking about what you paid people to do with your
So I
company.
have
I'm
not
not talking
served.
about
I've not
that,
served the country
because that
in the way
means
you
nothing
have.
to me.
You do
what I'm
realize
talking,
she has,
what
she
I
has
am.
able to
means
ask a
nothing
question.
to
She's
me.
been trying
Go
to ask
for
a
it,
question,
yeah.
and you've been talking over her.
I'm
and
all ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say
Seems a
what
little
you said.
defensive.
I'm all ears.
she
No, I was
hasn't-
just
she
correcting a
hasn't
couple
had a chance
facts.
to
That's
ask a
all.
question yet. Every
Go
time
ahead,
she
You hear that? They're all like, "Oh, he's on the defensive." No, he's just trying to clear up and reiterate some of the things that she's trying to pin on him. Simple as that.
tries to ask a question, you've been cutting her off. Go ahead,
I'm
Tess.
all ears.
Right. So your question. So my question again is: you're trying to your goal is to raise the standard, and you're saying you want people to believe in country, and you want people to have civic engagement. And sir, I just find it very telling that you haven't had any civic engagement at all, and haven't been at all. And when I say sit around, I don't mean you haven't done anything. I'm talking about in regards to service. Because one thing about political office, the same way that you want to change how people look at politics and look at this country, I want to change how people look at politicians. And when I see that someone hasn't did anything at all to be of service to mankind, to take a leadership
Hasn't
role, it's not
done
good enough to just be on
anything,
city student council. Were you a leader? All of that applies. Have you been able to get anybody in the room at any time, from a high school gymnasium to Ohio Republican leadership
So
there to
irrelevant.
now? Have you been able to get anybody in a room to believe in this vision? I don't agree with a lot of your vision statement, but I do know you've been going around having these discussions and getting everybody emotionally worked up to talk about vision and debate. But I want to get to the practical. You're trying to go from preschool to president of the United States. You're skipping over city council, county council, mayor, governor. You want to go straight to the top. So my question is this a PR? Is this for the PR, the perception of reality? Or can you point to any leadership where you've been able to get people to believe in what you're talking about that they're not paid to do on any of these vision statements that you have? If not, then to me, it's a moot point, because you're holding a standard that you haven't met yourself.
Now, in regards to what she's talking about, the civic thing, he has the proposal that even people that are born in this country should be held to a standard that immigrants are held to, where when they come over to this country, they need to do a test to prove that they know American history, American policies, this and that. Where he says a lot of young kids, 18, kind of after high school, should also be taking a test if they want to be voting. Because today's day and age, a lot of kids don't know either the American history or even the branches of the government. And I think he even says, like, majority of young kids don't vote, which, you know, we all kind of know. Yeah, it's interesting again that she harps so much on these like services in terms of like random positions held in elementary and high schools.
So if you're only going to count government service, you're absolutely
No, not government
right.
service.
Okay.
Student council in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th. Were you
Yeah.
a leader? Did you do anything to rally anybody? Did you fight for better lunch? I did in the 6th grade with Miss Harris.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about government. I can go all the way back from the 5th grade every year, sir. Because
What
people who are in
relevance is
service to
that?
this country, if you're going to go around saying you want people to believe in this country that I signed up to die for, then I want to make sure that you're holding that same standard. So not government, not political. Let's not get it confused. I'm saying, have you did anything of service that we can point to say he is a good leader, like Chris? And I'm not even a fan of Chris Christie, but he was the student council president in high school. So have you done anything of service besides yourself that has not benefited yourself? It's just a simple question.
So the acts of service that I have performed are small, so small that I don't even want to talk about them to boast. But yes, have I volunteered for this country? Yes, I have. I've always been interested in healthcare.
It's okay to talk about the small things.
I mean, these are small things, right? But thank you.
No, well, let's just mention it.
Bethesda North Hospital.
So it's really a no?
And here
No, it's
again,
not a no.
they
It's
start
just something I don't
badgering
like
him.
boasting about. I
Well,
volunteer.
we're not boasting.
Yeah.
It's an interview.
So
You're
there we go.
boasting on your vision and everything else.
I think
you
one of the
boasted on
things-
the millions of dollars that you made. So let's just throw it out. So
I
in 6th
actually
grade, I'll give
didn't.
you an example. I'll help you out.
Like, it's just so much animosity towards this guy. And she says that she's an independent. She's not a Democrat or a Republican, but the way she's coming off is just so arrogant, so much animosity for no goddamn reason, you know? Just for no reason, you know? It doesn't make much sense.
In 6th grade, Miss
I'll
Harris,
tell you-
Miss Harris was Let me give you an example because maybe you're confused. In the 6th grade, Miss Harris was snatching papers from everybody in the classroom. So me as a 10-year-old, I went to the principal and said, I'm tired of Miss Harris snatching papers. And I organized the students around getting Miss Harris to stop snatching papers. Now, there was a consequence for that. I got suspended for 5 days for talking back, and I got in trouble. I got a spanking, and I was on punishment for months and months. But that is a simple way of organizing people.
Holy smokes. We should have her for president because of this. Because of this brave moment that she did in the 6th grade where she got a beating for it, a suspension for it, and she stopped a teacher from snatching papers, she deserves a presidency.
I want you to kind of boast about it the way you did the millions of dollars and said what you did with the pharmaceutical companies. What leadership can you point to that you've been able to rally anybody around anything that is of service that you did not pay anybody to do? I think that's important for the next president of the United States.
Sure. So I've always been drawn to healthcare. That's why I ended up founding companies in that space. When I was in high school, part of what drew me into it was that I was a volunteer.
And on that note, he runs multi-billion dollar companies. That shows he has the leadership capability. He can take a leadership role. Like, it's crazy that she's questioning him so hard on this stuff, on irrelevant subjects like city count or student council, student president, all that kind of stuff. Class president.
At a local hospital. I actually became the leader of that group of volunteers that actually discharged women who had recently given birth. That was it. Nothing big to it.
Did you do anything we can point to stand out?
But I want to say something about that because I say that in the book. If I'm being really honest, why did I do that in high school? A part of the motivation, I'll be just brutally honest with you, was part of the motivation was that's actually what allows you to get into a good college when you graduate. Is
right.
You want to
So
check
it was
the box
about.
of
So it was
community
about
service.
you.
So
So
there
it
was
was
an
about
element.
self.
And that's what everyone does. Everyone puts on volunteering, charity work, extracurricular activities. They all strive to do that kind of stuff, to put that on a resume, to make them look better, or on a college application or university application, to say that they have all these things and can point to them to shine a little bit of extra light on them. That's not new. That's not a new concept. Everybody does that who's trying to succeed or get ahead of somebody else. That's why in high schools and stuff, you have 40 hours of community service, or, and sometimes people go above and beyond that. They do 120, they do 90, and they like to show off. like it's not a new concept. So I don't know why she starts attacking him for this when he's being brutally honest about it. Almost everybody does this.
So and I'm admitting that in a way that very few other people do, but I got to be honest about it. That was a big part of why I did it.
Yeah, it was about self, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to give it back to the guys.
If
I'm going to be honest about it with you.
Yep.
Leadership is not about self.
I agree with you on that.
What I just heard is that everything is about you. And to be honest with you, this is just a PR campaign, sir. To be honest with you, and I think you're trying to go further to the right because you want the Republicans to accept you as a man of color. And I think the only way you think you can do that is to be so extreme.
I appreciate your opinion
with your positions, and I think you need to do a little bit more work in service. I'll give it back to you
Let
guys.
me failed the test because she did ask me a question. And then you guys said you wanted to hear a response, but I think I heard an expression of opinion. So just, I just want to make sure you're all done before I respond to it.
No, just wanting to say that even then, I would still want you to point out, even at the hospital, something that you did that made you stand out on when actually taking a leadership role. But you already answered it. You said you did it because it was a motivation to get in college.
Exactly.
Which means it was
I'm being
about
very
you.
honest about that. But
everything has been about you. So as a veteran,
let me tell you something. I appreciate
it's very hard for me to follow leaders that make everything about them. So you might want to work on that because it's a lot of veterans and Republicans. So you might want to work on that talking point and maybe do some volunteering while you're on the campaign trail. I'm going to give it back to
like, look how she just shuts him down. She's asking him all these questions. She's trying to make her point. It's like she wants the last word in. It's like you're asking the man to explain something to him. He's trying. You have the other parties in the room attacking him, saying, "Oh, let her speak, let her speak." It's like, well, she's asking me a question. I'm trying to respond to her, or I'm trying to clarify some of the points that she's mentioning. And they're just shutting him down. She's now been able to say what she wants to say, and I was just basically cutting him off. And it's crazy that this is how they think an interview should be conducted. So the next part I wanted to just quickly cover is him talking about affirmative action. And again, I don't understand why Charlemagne and everyone else is kind of attacking him for this viewpoint. I think it actually makes a lot of sense.
So you guys know me. You know what I stand for. I haven't hit back on that. Whether the people in this country want to vote for it, that's their choice.
Do you want to unite the country?
I do want to unite the country.
So why is like one of your marquee campaign proposals making sure black people can no longer benefit from affirmative action?
See, here's the thing. It's actually
the fact that he thinks that they benefit from affirmative action is a little bit bonkers to me. But listen to what Vivek has to say.
Been a disastrous experiment over the last 60 years. I've seen the impact that it's had. Unlike a lot of other executives, I've had senior executives in my company who happen to be black, senior executives in my campaign who happen to be black. I actually went to a majority or close to majority black school 1st through 8th grade. There isn't a single one of those black kids or black colleagues that could not have achieved everything I have in my life. I firmly believe that to be true. And I have seen the unfair discrimination behind closed doors, the things that people will say behind closed doors, about somebody who would have had that position anyway, but was unfairly tarred with the taint of saying they got it because of a race-based quota system. I think that's unjust to everyone across the board. And I think that the right way to do this is actually ensure equality of opportunity.
And it's funny because you hear a lot of black people who are in these higher positions say that, like whether it's be Harvard or law school or anything like that, they say stuff like, because of affirmative action, I just get looked at as somebody who was hired due to affirmative action, not because of my merit or because I know what I'm talking about. If you got rid of affirmative action, you wouldn't have to be concerned about that, because then people would know that you got here based on your merit and your skill, not because of affirmative action. Regardless if it's true or not, that box wouldn't even be able to be ticked because that's not a thing.
Educational access at an early age, which, by the way, we don't have in this country, starting at an actual young age. How about doing that in a way that's agnostic to race? That way we prevent seeing one another on the basis of a color of our skin, but we actually solve the real inequalities that we have when it starts with inequality of opportunity, starting with education. So my view is, I think my approach is actually going to be more successful in lifting up more black Americans than have been the Lyndon Johnson approach of actually using race-based quota systems.
So if the Supreme Court does rule on affirmative action and they do ban it, who do you feel it benefits versus who it hurts?
I think
Doesn't
that
benefit anybody.
it helps everyone if they end race-based
Yeah.
affirmative action in college admissions. I think it will literally help everyone in different ways because it restores merit in the United States.
100%.
Are we perfect in ensuring equality of opportunity? No, we're not. The fact that kids are trapped by the zip code in which they're born, determining where they go to school, is a problem, which is why I favor universal school choice in this country, which has actually done more to help Black Americans than has any affirmative action program.
And that would make sense. Being, if your parents or if you're willing to travel out of your zip code to get to a quote unquote better school or a school that you feel like you have better opportunities in, then you should have the ability to do that, even though it's not within your zip code. So I agree with that.
We need to close the gap between what people say in private and what they say in public. That allows us to air our differences, and then we actually find unity that way. That's actually what I think unites the country, not creating this culture of hush-hush, right? Say one thing in public and a different thing in private. And I do reject Don Lemon's premise. What did he tell me on set? He said, you can disagree with me when you have black skin and you've lived in this country, whatever ethnicity you are.
But
Explain.
That's crazy that they seem to think that just because you're not black, you've had no diversity, you can't speak on anything. Like, now I could play the rest of this clip, but again, it's just so hard to watch and listen to this woman go on and on and on. Again, 3.6K likes. Apparently, they got 18,000 dislikes. And if you see the comment section, you could understand why. Everyone's saying, give this woman the title as Donkey of the Day. Well deserved. Vivek, I've created life-saving medicine. Oh, but have you ever stopped someone from snatching papers in the 6th grade? As an independent voter, I think he walked into a very hostile environment. True. This woman's disrespect borders on racism, and her criteria for running for president is ridiculous. I do not care what Vivek did in the 5th grade, nor what she did either. His accomplishments as an adult are immense, and he has served all people tremendously by what he's been able to create by the age of 37, and that's way more than 99% of the humans alive today. He handled himself very well, being attacked by an awful grade school question. Careless, crass, brash, abrasive, and ignorant lady. All in one is disastrous. Vivek was calm and respectful. He got my vote. And again, this goes on and on. This guy is so articulate and well-spoken and isn't afraid to go on these shows. I respect that. Dismissing Mr. Ramaswamy's discipline and commitment towards achieving his endeavors is just ludicrous. This is exactly the kind of person we need more of to run as president and other political offices to represent. Like, and it just goes on. I'm confused. So what we want is a president is someone who fought for lunch, for school lunch. This is the most elementary interview ever. Y'all could have left her out of this. It's just nuts that they allowed this to be aired or the way they handled this. But as always, love to hear from you guys. Again, this is one that's a little bit longer, but it's just crazy that this is how they thought conducting an interview was the best way to go about it. But yeah, leave your comment in the comment section below. If you were able to watch this whole clip, congratulations, pat yourself on the back, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much. So if you like that video and you want more content like that, check out this video. And as always, stay subscribed for other videos that I post. Thanks.